Ankh and Ma'at, Ankh and Ma'at, Ankh and Ma'at. Let me greet you and say to you that I am so pleased that you have joined us for Kemetic Ascension for September 10th, 2023. Let me go ahead and say to you that we're having some technical difficulties. Boy, it's been a day. And in addition to that, Anika is not feeling well today. So she's not with us. She's relaxing. I want to say to you that I'm pleased that you're here. We will still have our gathering, although our technology is not necessarily cooperating. We'll figure it out. We're not going to let our technology prevent us from doing what we intend to do today. So I want to simply say to you, we are glad that you are here. We are ecstatic that we're able to gather once again for Kemetic Ascension. And let me say to you that you know that when we begin Kemetic Ascension, we begin one way. We ask for you to join us in greeting the rest of our community in two ways. We'd like to hear how long you've been part of Kemetic Ascension and where in the world you are. It helps us understand how broad this conversation around African spirituality, around the traditions of ancient Kemet, the traditions of the ancient Nile or Happy Valley region have traversed. So please let us know how long you have been part of Kemetic Ascension and where in the world you are. We're seeing lots of folks come in. I'm seeing Sinette Coach Ye, who is one of our full members. Ankin Ma'at to you. It's good to see you here. Justin Time says that he's in from Philly. Ankin Ma'at to you. Ankin Ma'at to you. Tell us how long you've been part of Kemetic Ascension. Here goes our Sinette Cheryl Lee, who was an active member of the Shrine of Ma'at. Ankin Ma'at to you. You can see that she has been part of this gathering for about 7 years. Amazing. Ankin Ma'at to you, Sinette Sakina Ra, who was also a full member. Great to see that you are there. I think you're in, is it North Forks, Dakota? North Dakota? I think that might be where it is. Let me know exactly where you are. We see Sen DC Senisi Nika, who is Nahisi, and Sinette Della, who are two of the folks who will be completing their initiatory process next week. They are full members of the Shrine of Ma'at. Ankin Ma'at to you. Sinette Tisha, a full member of the Shrine of Ma'at. Ankin Ma'at to you. Sinette Koche says she'll see us in New York next week. Yes, you may know that we are having our Heb Kepruwer, the celebration for the new initiates, and what we call usually our OPET Festival weekend. Ankin Ma'at to you. I'm so pleased that you're here. Sinette Tisha is saying Atlanta's in the house. We see Wilnet, Luis, Efu, Ma'ati, Robinson, Obajewa, Osset. Ankin Ma'at to you. That is an incredible name. Ankin Ma'at, Ankin Ma'at. We see Snet Osset Neteru Gaya, Ankin Ma'at to you. Justin says he's been around about 2 years. We see Sen James Young, Ankin Ma'at to you. Ankin Ma'at to you. Good to see you. Living in 3 cities, Senet Efua Ma'ati. Los Angeles, Atlanta, and Baltimore. I don't know how you do that. That is tough. Those cities are not close to each other, particularly if you were going to go from Baltimore to Los Angeles. That is a long distance. Safe travel to you as you navigate what seems to be a very full life. Ankin Ma'at to you. And of course, we see Sen Atan, one of our full members, been involved for about 4 years, coming from the Windy City, Chicago. Ankin Ma'at to you, dear brother. Ankin Ma'at. We see Bill and Andrew Rogers in Guyana, living in Georgetown. Ankin Ma'at to you, my maternal home. My mother is from Guyana. Ankin Ma'at to you. Hopefully I'll be going to Guyana sometime next year. We're Our family is talking about that right now, actually. We see Taseti, who has been with us for about 14 months, living in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, but in Denver, Colorado today. What is it like in Denver, Colorado right now? When I think of Colorado, the Mile High City, I think of cold, it being cold, but certainly it's not cold now. What's it like in Colorado right now? Ankh and Ma'at, Sanet Osset Neteru Gaia is saying that she's also in Guyana. We got a Guyanese following there. Look at that. Sanet Wilnet says that she has an Akan name and a Kemetic name. We noticed that you were putting those together. Ankh and Ma'at, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. You know that particularly the Akan people, the people mostly in Ghana, West Africa, are dear to us. We spend a lot of time there. So Ankh and Ma'at to you. Ankh and Ma'at to Percy Matiso, who is coming for the first time from South Africa. Ankh and Ma'at, send Percy. I believe that you are the person furthest away right now. Ankh and Ma'at to you. We see Sanet Oye Het Herure. Sanet Oye, I believe that's our full member, Sanet Oye, coming to us from Philly. Ankh and Ma'at to you, Sanet. I hope all is well. We see, let's see who else is here. Sen Bill, I'm looking forward to meeting you too. Where are you based, Sen Bill? Will you be in New York City anytime soon? Or maybe we will be in an area where you live, we hope. Let's see. We have Heru Asar Ankh Amun Ra, who has been watching for 4 years. Heru Asar Ankh Amun Ra is one of our full members. Ankh and Ma'at to you. Ankh and Ma'at to you. Wonderful. You've had a hot summer in Denver. I thought it was. I mean, it's interesting that the whole country is warming up, but I really wonder what Denver's summers look like. We actually see Sen Jason Holmes, one of my good brothers and a full member of the Shrine of Ma'at, coming from Lincoln, Nebraska. Ankh and Ma'at to you. It's good to know you're there, dear brother. We have Markevius Kusar. When am I getting back in the ring? I'm assuming he's referring to the debates. You know, we were planning to do a debate, hopefully with Dane Calloway, one of the people that has been most popular for saying that Black folks in the United States are not people of African descent, but are in fact the Native Americans. But it seems like he's shying away from the debate now, as I thought he might. So I'm not exactly sure when that will occur. Of course, you know that Brother Sonetta is constantly suggesting debates that we might have. We'll see how that goes. Grand Forks. I said North Forks, North Dakota. It's Grand Forks. Oh, you're going to be in New York. Snet Sakina Ra, you need to let us know. Well, those are the dates. Hopefully, I hope we'll be here on those dates. Please remind us so we can go get some food or something like that. It'd be wonderful to see you in person. Ankh and Ma'at to Clee Ford, one of our full members coming from Queens. Ankh and Ma'at, send Clee Ford. It's good to hear that you're there and doing well. That's needed one, but he never shows his source. Yes, no, his sources are, when he shows his source, it's being poorly used. And I'm quite sure that when I challenge him on his sources, he's going to flip out if that debate ever happens. We'll see. We also see Derek Collins, Ankh and Ma'at to you, coming from New Orleans. Wonderful. Nola, Ankh and Ma'at. We see Sen Rich Douglin, who is one of our full members, also coming out of Queens. How are you, dear brother? It is wonderful to know that you are there. How is your queen? We hope that you are doing well. We must say that we are so honored that you're all here. Honored. We see also Mariamun Satepin Ra, Ankh and Ma'at to you. Mariamun Satepin Ra. I think I'm not recognizing the name, but if my memory serves, you are also a full member. I think that I know you better as another name. Let us know what that name is, because I think that you might be one of our full members. Ankh and Ma'at to Sanet Sandra, one of our full members. Wonderful to see you there. Coming from BK, followed since we had a cat. Yeah, our poor cat has made his transition. We see Sen Robert James, a regular, coming to us in London, UK. We may well be in the UK next year. And when we know, we will certainly announce it. So perhaps we can meet you. We would definitely go to London. Ankin Ma'at to Kerwin Jimerson. Ankin Ma'at to you from Phoenix, Arizona. Our shrine, second shrine is there. Wonderful. It's good to see you. Mary Moon Steppenrot, it's Sen Jason Holmes. Did you just log in with a different name? Is that what it is? Maybe that's what that is. Ankin Ma'at. See, I knew I recognized the name. I was like, wait, you're supposed to know that name. Come on, man. You know my brain sometimes. On Sundays, it tends to be Swiss cheesier than most times when I can call it Swiss cheese. So, you know, Ankin Ma'at to you. Ankin Ma'at to Per Ankh from Atlanta. Ankin Ma'at to Risha Bahet Heru, who is in Philadelphia. Trying to remember, I know that name. You're a regular. I can't seem to remember whether I know you as another name. Ankin Ma'at to Pan African Daily TV. Ankin Ma'at, we know you, Pan African Daily TV. It's a wonderful channel. I think I watch you on YouTube occasionally. Wonderful. It's good to know that you're there. Ankin Ma'at to Ashley Amara, one of our full members, who is coming to us from Houston. I would love to hear how Houston is treating you. I know that last time I saw you, you were still in Vegas. I hope all is well. I hope all is well. Ankin Ma'at, Ankin Ma'at, Ankin Ma'at. It is wonderful to see you and to know that you are all here. Welcome to Kemetic Ascension once again. Welcome to Sinette Amber from Central Texas. Welcome, 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 welcome. With that, you know that when we begin our gatherings for Kemetic Ascension, we begin with that ceremony, that ritual that was put into its current configuration by our shrine elder, by that individual who is one of the oldest adherents of the Kemetic tradition in the West, one of those individuals who brought the Kemetic tradition back into modern practice. I'm speaking of none other than Baba Heru Ankh Ra Samaj Se Patah, who is one of the most shining examples of the Kemetic tradition in the West. My spiritual father, our elder, someone who really has allowed so many others, thousands and thousands of other people, to practice the Kemetic tradition through his practice. We must say that we mirror him. The ritual that we're about to do is called, as you know, the opening of the way, the opening of the way. And we are hoping that you will do the opening of the way with us. If you don't know the opening of the way, that is fine. Begin by standing and at least doing the motions with us. As you continue to do them, you will learn this ritual. So we want you to stand upright, to place your palms out in front of you, expose them in front of you. This is how you might know that you are able to best detect energy. And as you do that, put your left palm a bit further forward than your right palm, and have your right palm a bit lower than your left palm. And your feet, you're going to be standing as if you're taking a small step forward with your right foot, like you're in mid-stride. This is known as the position of adoration. You will see it on temple walls and on papyri for thousands of years. This is one of the most important positions in the Kemetic tradition. With that, what you're going to do, we're going to do this in the traditional way. Face east, face east. That's the way that Baba taught us how to do it. You may know that the shrine does it in two different ways. We want you to do it in Wat El Heru, the manner of the eldest Heru. We're talking of Baba Heru. So please stand in this manner, put your hands out in front of you, then you're going to take a deep breath and chant the words of everlasting life. Ankh. Take your breath from your belly, from your lower belly, not in your chest. Here we go. Anetrok in bedhet, nuke in bedhet. Anetrok hapi, nuke hapi, twau inter. Let us turn right. Anetrok serket, nuke serket. Anetrok keb senuf, nuke keb senuf, twau inter. Anetrok ast, nuke ast. Anetrok amset, nuke amset, twau inter. Anetrok neat, nuke neat, nuke neat. Anetrok dwamutef, nuke dwamutef, twau inter. Anetrok newt, nuke doot. Anetrok geb, nuke geb, twau inter. Anetrok shoe, nuke shoe, 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 nuke shoe. Anetrok tefnut, 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 nuke tefnut, twau inter. Anetrok paut interu, nuke paut interu. Anetrok in boo interu, nuke in boo interu, twau inter. Twau inter, twau inter. Dwa, dwa, dwa. Can I say dwa to you for joining us in this important ritual? You may remember that we say that the opening of the way is not simply to be done when we are in Kemetic Ascension. We hope that you are doing the opening of the way whenever you are doing anything of importance. And certainly your day is of importance. Do the opening of the way at the very least at the beginning of your day. It will help ground you and help you remember just how powerful you actually are. It allows you to remember that these divine forces are both indwelling and outdwelling, both indwelling and outdwelling. I hope you understand what I mean when I say that. I am saying that it is through this ritual that you remind yourself, just how powerful you are. You are a being imbued with infinite power and potential and possibility. You must remember that in your sacred power, in your highest self, there is nothing that is above you. There is nothing that you cannot do. This is one of the most important and fundamental positions, fundamental principles of the Kemetic tradition. And we hope that you will continue to remember it, continue to live into it, so that you can do the work that you have been divinely ordained to do. With that, you may know that we always now go into what is called Hesse. And for those of you who are confused about Hesse, we want to remind you that Hesse is the manner in which our sacred Kemetic ancestors galvanized divine energy in song and in harmony. So please join us in Hesse. Before we go into Hesse, let me say Anken Ma'at to Abu Jamar. One of the members of the Wenwet is here. Anken Ma'at to you. I say Anken Ma'at to send Tehuti Forever, the Jati of Phoenix. And we also say Anken Ma'at to Sanet Nakia. Anken Ma'at to you. Anken Ma'at to send Garrick, who's one of our full members, also in Phoenix. Anken Ma'at, Anken Ma'at. Anken Ma'at to Big Man 29 out in Los Angeles. Anken Ma'at. I hope that I have not missed any of you. We want to greet you for all of the work that you are doing in the places that you do it. So Anken Ma'at, Anken Ma'at. So let's go into a Hesse that is an oldie but goodie. It is a Hesse that has been mastered, recorded by that wonderful couple, the Schaeffers. It comes out of a Hesse that we would regularly do in the Shrine of Ptah. The words come directly from the Reyu Pert and Meruanger, which is amazing and which is wonderful. So we want you to join us for what is known as the Rupu Nuku Hesse. The Rupu Nuku Hesse. Please join us for this wonderful Hesse. Enjoy this Hesse. Get accustomed to and familiar with this Hesse so that you are able to use it in your daily life. It is amazing. Take a listen. Can you hear the Hesse? Doing this by myself ain't easy today.
I am a shiny, shiny, dwelling in the light, created from the lens of divinity. I am a shiny, shiny being, dwelling in the light, created from the lens of divinity. Uncle Justin, Uncle Justin, I am a shiny, shiny, dwelling in the light, created from the lens of divinity. I am a shiny, shiny being, dwelling in the light, created from the lens of divinity. Uncle Justin, Uncle Justin, I am a shiny, shiny, dwelling in the light, created from the lens of divinity. I am a shiny, shiny being, dwelling in the light, created from the lens of divinity. Uncle Justin, Uncle Justin, I am a shiny, shiny, dwelling in the light, created from the lens of divinity. I am
I really, really enjoy that Hesse. It is one of the Hesses that we did in the Shrine of Ptah when we were at the Shrine of Ptah. It is magnificent. It is wonderful to hear it done anew because, as you know, if you have been coming to Kemetic Ascension regularly, the Schaefer's really have done a magnificent job of making these old Hesse all new again. They've done a magnificent job really allowing us to hear these things mastered, sung beautifully, produced beautifully. It is amazing. And I want to say dwa, 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 dwa eternally to them because they have really enlivened our gatherings with their amazing Hesse. So dwa to them once again. I hope they're doing well. There they go. They're there. Ankh and Ma'at to you. Ankh and Ma'at to you. It's wonderful that you're there. I'm also seeing Percy Matiso saying, can you have the words to the opening of the way ritual? I believe the words are on the website and in our Facebook page. Please look at our Facebook page, Shrine of Ma'at. If you just search for Shrine of Ma'at on Facebook, you'll see it. Our website is shrineofma'at.org. Let me know if you find it or not. If you don't find it, I'll make sure that we get it to you, okay? You can always email us. The emails are all on the Facebook page and our website as well. I also see that Arisha Bahet Haru is saying how you can purchase the CD. Go to our website at shrineofma'at.org. You know that these amazing Hesse are also streaming on virtually every streaming platform. So just go ahead, look there for Shrine of Ma'at or look for Temple Music Volume 1. You will find it there. Wonderful. I think it's Kemetic Meditations, Temple Music Volume 1. Actually, I think it's Temple Music Volume 1, Kemetic Meditations. Ankh and Ma'at, Ankh and Ma'at. Let's see. And also, I think that, Ankh and Ma'at to seek energy within. Ankh and Ma'at to all of you who have come in a bit later. It's wonderful to see you there. Remember, this is a good time for you to share, and this is a good time for you to like. This is a good time for you to put some thumbs up on this on YouTube so it's more easily able to be found. Ankh and Ma'at to you all. Okay, so from here, you know that we always go into what we call the word from the Sebayit, the word from the Sebayit. And I want to say to you that today, I really want, and how can you donate to the Shrine of Ma'at, Kerwin? You can donate to us on Cash App at $ Shrine of Ma'at. You can also send us donations. You can do it at on PayPal, Jed at shrineofma'at.org. And you can also get us on Cash App at Shrine of Ma'at. You know that's $ Shrine of Ma'at for Cash App. All of your donations are so helpful. They allow us to continue to put Kemetic Ascension on and to do the work of the shrine. Ankh and Ma'at to you all. Let me say to you that today, for the word from the Sebayit, we're starting with a difficult topic. We're starting with a topic that I wasn't even sure if I would address here. I spoke to the matter maybe 2 years ago when we first became aware of this very challenging issue. But I was speaking with Baba Heru yesterday, and he even said to me that it was important for us to say something now that the matter seems to be Cash App is down right now. All of Cash App or our Cash App? That's odd. I hope everything is moving well. And Sinet Tisha, dua to Sinet Anika. She's not feeling well today. I hope that it's something that is going to pass very easily. I will definitely share your wonderful blessings with her. The issue that I want to address today is one that, as I said, I wasn't sure if I was going to address, but in speaking to Baba Heru, he suggested that it was important for me to address it. You may know that one of the folks that is a very well-known member of the quote-unquote conscious community had been arrested, had been arraigned, had been indicted on some issues involving child abuse, involving sexual contact with a minor. I'm speaking of no other than the person that most people know of as Brother Polite. And I really want you to know that we are extremely pained by what has occurred. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge what occurred, speak to what occurred, because there are certainly those people from outside of our community that are arguing that his behavior is emblematic of the Kemetic community. And I want to say again that that is not the case. Brother Polite seems to have done some things that are reprehensible, that are beyond any sort of, in some ways, redemption. How in the world do you do something to a child, a 14-year-old child? And I want to say that it's painful. He's someone that I know personally. I don't know him well, but certainly I do know him. If you had looked online at Soneta's website, you can see that he has been to the shrine at least once. He had come and we had conversations in our house. I'm talking about the upper levels above the shrine at least twice. I began to become a little uncomfortable talking with him anywhere, because whenever I would share space with him, I would get a deluge of messages. I'm being very honest about what would occur. A deluge of messages from people saying that he had taken their money for all sorts of issues, for all sorts of services, not rendered those services, and then stopped responding. So I would get those texts. So I started saying to Soneta, I was uncomfortable sharing space with him because it was absolutely concerning that he would do such a thing. And so I stopped spending time with him, sharing space with him, talking with him, lecturing with him a long time ago. But I have to say that even though I had some concerns about his moral fiber, let's put it that way, because whenever someone would complain and I would tell Polite that they were complaining, he would speak to them for a little bit and they would acknowledge that he spoke to them. But he never said that he didn't have their money. He never said that he was continuing to communicate with them. At one point, I even asked that if the person had done something incorrect, could he please send me the text trail so that I could understand what had occurred. He refused to do those things, obviously, because I believe he was doing some things that were possibly inappropriate with people's funds. And so I stopped communicating with him. I want you to know that the last time he was here, he suggested that maybe he go down to meet Baba Heru. He had never been to the studio of Ptah. And Soneta and he said, oh, you should go with Jabari. And I have to say to you that I changed the subject. I changed the subject because I did not believe that I wanted to create a situation where he would spend time, likely time on camera with our elder. Of course, none of us had any idea that he might have done something more more inappropriate. And so that is one of the challenges that we have. I'm certainly not, when I stopped spending time with him or speaking with him when he would come to New York, I had no idea that this sort of thing would occur. But you may know that about 2 years ago, he was accused of doing inappropriate things with the daughter of an ex-girlfriend. And for a very long time, this has been roiling the conscious community. It is all over the internet. If you look at YouTube, you'll see probably by now dozens upon dozens of videos about it. Everyone was paying attention to it. And I must say that there are those who are trying to say that he has done this because he is part of the Kemetic community. I want to say to you that I even question whether he's actually part of the Kemetic community. Brother Polite had been part of the Nuwaubian nation. He had gone on to create his own institutions. But to call him a practitioner would likely be erroneous. And so I really want to say to you that I don't view him as part of the Kemetic community. I want to say to you that I am extremely pained by what occurred. And I also must say that I am even more dismayed after listening to the mother, Sister Linda, the mother of the young lady that was abused, speak her truth in court. If you have not heard it, I want to caution you about listening to it because it is painful. I could not listen to the whole thing in one sitting. I had to pause it and wait. It was that disturbing. It was that disturbing. And she speaks to so many of the things that had been rumored to have occurred, that we believed might have occurred. She speaks to them plainly in her impact statement in front of the court. And it is damning. It is because of this that I thought that today we should also talk about the challenge of Black motherhood, because we could really hear how difficult this is and will continue to be for her and for her daughter. I really do believe that this sort of behavior by Brother Polite has occurred in lots of sections of our community and clearly outside of our community. And we should stand united against people who would do anything damaging, particularly things that we could call abuse, and particularly those things that we could call sexual abuse or rape. This is as reprehensible as one could imagine. And so I think that we should truly stand here and speak to what occurred. I see so many of you making comments here. I know that you are familiar with it. It's really, really painful. And King Kelvin says, Jabari, why you never called about saying the Black woman is God? We all know that's false. I honestly believe that what he was saying when he said the Black woman was God in some ways is it's hyperbole. It's hyperbole. But in the beginning, I thought it was hyperbole with a purpose. The reality, what he was trying to say is he was trying to juxtapose. This is something that I had said decades before he had ever said it. He was trying to juxtapose the extremely patriarchal nature of the Abrahamic traditions against the more egalitarian nature of ancient African and African spiritual traditions, that the divine force is also feminine in those African traditions. Did he say it articulately? No. No. But I think that that is what he was saying. So I don't know if I would call it false. I would say that it is perhaps inartfully phrased. But that's not the issue. That's not the issue here. The issue is the fact that he did some things that are beneath any sort of ethical line in our community. And as you may know, now he is going to be serving his sentence after his plea agreement was 7 years in prison and 10 years on probation. He released a video after he was taken into custody. I believe one of his wives released a video, and in that he was trying to say that some of the charges were dropped. I don't know how you could make that argument. When you have a plea agreement, you usually plead to a lesser charge. So that's not dropping charges. That's simply pleading to a lesser charge. I think that he was trying to misrepresent and to, in any way he possibly could, make what he was pleading to sound like there was some sort of victorious silver lining within it. But I want to say that this is disturbing. This is disturbing. And when he comes out of prison, you should know that I will have nothing to do with him. I hope that all of you will have nothing to do with him. And I hope that you will not think that this is simply a Brother Polite issue. We must protect our children, particularly our young female children, those young women, those young girls. We must protect them, and we must support mothers, women in our community. I sometimes feel that the Black woman is the most violated in our community, because that violation not only comes from the hands of the European, of the Tomhu, but it also comes from the hands of Black men who are living lives based in Isfet against the laws of Ma'at. I know that just a few months ago, I was walking out, I was outside in front of the house watering the plants, and I saw a man hit a woman twice with all of his strength. And there were so many people around, I ran over to him. And I said, hey, you can't hit her. Stop it. And I had my hands like this. By the way, you should know that this is not only a position that says, I am not going to attack you, but it's also a pretty decent way to prepare yourself to defend yourself. And he swung at me, he hit me, and we ended up in a tussle. Insanity. Insanity. I'm going to say to you that I was horrified that there were at least a dozen people watching, and it was me and him. No one came to the sister's aid. And when I went there, no one said, okay, someone's doing something. Let's do something together. They simply watched. We have to, and that's not the first time I've seen that kind of violence, that kind of abuse in public. We must protect our sisters. We know that we have seen in this time period lots of individuals who have attempted to attack and to abuse women. And sometimes they have done that with reckless abandon. By the way, you should know that after he hit me, something else clicked in. My old martial arts training kicked in. I hit him twice and I kicked him and he fell to the ground. And I was startled that happened. It came out of, it was muscle memory. It was not, I did not think, hey, let me do the 1-2 combo on him. I did not think that. It just happened. I'm going to say to you that I was terrified. Here it was, I hit him probably much harder than he hit me, but I was terrified. We must continue to protect our women. We look at the situation that occurred. I'm going to be controversial here for a minute. It should not, and I'm going to say this should not be controversial. We look at how R. Kelly was able to prey on Black women for decades. We look at the situation that occurred around two folks in the hip hop community. You know that I am talking about Megan Thee Stallion and what's his name? Guy's name, Daystar Peterson is his original name. I'm forgetting his hip hop name, but I want to say to you that it was clear that he did something inappropriate. And even when people had questions about what actually happened, the questions they asked were Tory Lanez. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Abu Jamar. Of course, Abu Jamar is a member of the hip hop community. You know that name was going to roll off of his tongue very quickly. We have to really understand that people said that she hadn't been shot, which was bizarre because we had seen the reports from the hospital. We'd even seen x-rays. We have to protect Black women. We must protect Black women. So today I want to speak to the importance of protecting Black women. And I want us to recognize that this is about more than polite. This is about more than polite. In our African traditions, we have always revered the role of women. We have always revered the role of women. I believe that this disregard for Black women is a remnant, a painful remnant of what occurred to us during our enslavement. In fact, I think Dr. Joyce DeGruy would probably say that it's part of post-traumatic slave disorder. And I need to say that we need to dispense with it. Our healing should begin in our families first. Look at this image of Ast in the middle. This image was so critical in ancient Kemet, it went all over the world. This image of Black womanhood, of African womanhood, that is so critically important. In our tradition particularly, we must recognize both the power and the importance of women, and we must also recognize that they must be protected. That is one of the most central tenets of the Kemetic tradition. I want to say that I found something very interesting a few years ago when in the New York Times it was reported that researchers found a Sa, a mummy. Sa is the ancient African name of a woman who was actually pregnant. Imagine how painful it is for both a woman and her baby to pass. But imagine that she was Sahufied, she was mummified in as a pregnant woman. That is amazing. I think that our ancestors wanted that child and mother to be together in the afterlife. I think that's fascinating. Of course, we should recognize that she is one of 40 Sa at the National Museum in Warsaw, Poland, by the way. Why should the museum in Poland have 40 bodies from our Kemetic ancestors? Why should they have them? Did you get a two-way? Did you get a text? Did you get a page? Did you get a smoke signal? I really believe that it is disturbing that these bodies are all over the Western world. I know the Metropolitan Museum has 13 mummies, 13 Sahu. And it's so concerning to me that this continues to happen. It's so concerning to me that we are still not in control of Black bodies. That's really what I'm saying to you. And it will be some time until those descendants of Africa are empowered enough that we can have a say as to what happens to the bodies of our ancestors. I want to say that in the United States and in much of the world, we have to recognize that in many ways, Black motherhood is radically different. The context is radically different than white motherhood. We must respect all mothers, but we must recognize that there are particular stressors on Black women who are rearing children that are not present for women of other races, let's call it, particularly white women. Particularly white women, the descendants of those who enslaved our ancestors. We must recognize that something quite different must occur in order for us to reclaim ourselves and to reclaim our humanity. We must reclaim the honor of Black women. We must ensure that Black mothers continue to um, to continue to have the support necessary to raise Black children. Think about how different the reality in recent years has been for Black women seeing their children sold off without them being able to actively play any role in preventing that from occurring. Think about all of the women who were forced into intercourse, who were raped by enslavers. I look at myself today and I recognize that I am not as dark as I would hope my lineage would have made me. And when I look at the DNA, I see that I am something like 97% Black on my maternal line, but I am something like 81% African on my paternal line. That speaks to the fact that the European DNA that has come into my makeup comes on the paternal side. That is usually what occurs because these enslavers had access to rape Black women. The context of Black womanhood is different than the mothers, than the women of anyone else in the modern world. Take a look at this ad. I thought that it was particularly painful, but also shows the resilience of our community. It says, information wanted. Information is wanted of my mother, whom I left in Fauquier County, Virginia, in 1844. And I was sold in Richmond, Virginia, to Samuel Copeland. I formerly belonged to Robert Rogers. I am very anxious to hear from my mother, and any information in relation to her whereabouts will be very thankfully received. My mother's name was Betty and was sold to by Colonel Briggs to James French. Any information by letter addressed to the colored Tennessean will be thankfully received. This man's name, who is Thornton Copeland, by the way, you can see that he still bears the last name of the man who enslaved him. You can see that he is now, after enslavement, it seems that he is searching for his mother and wondering what happened to her, because he was sold, seems like she was sold, and they were separated. This is painful. This is the reality that that these racist right-wingers don't want us to acknowledge. That's the reason why they say that we should not be able to talk about anything in the classroom that makes anyone uncomfortable. They are trying to ensure that these stories are no longer spoken. They occurred, they have affected our families, they continue to affect our families, and we must be able to speak to them. Well, let me say to you that Thornton Copeland was able to find information on his mother. After enslavement, what happened is many formerly enslaved would put advertisements in newspapers, including the colored Tennessean, as you can see here. And that is where someone had been in contact with his mother and sent a message so that he could spend time with her again. That is so powerful to me. It is so powerful to me that that was able to occur. Think about when we think about modern mothers, we think about Jasmine Headley. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her situation. More on this in a moment. This situation occurred right in New York City. Perhaps you are familiar with Tracy Martin and Sabrina Fulton. Sabrina Fulton being in the middle. They are the parents of Trayvon Martin. After the murder of their child, how will they ever truly put their lives back together? How about Samaria Rice, whose son at 12 was playing with a toy gun and the police rolled up after a 911 call? By the way, the 911 call said that someone was playing with the gun, but it might have been a toy, right? When the police rolled up, they shot him within 5 seconds of stopping the car. They just shot him, a child. And then we see the mother of Gwen Carr. And we remember that her son was killed in Staten Island. Killed in Staten Island when he told the police, and apparently the police officer who went on without any sort of consequence. This police officer was molesting men in that area when he patted them down, and he was confronted on this as well. But he had approached Eric Garner. That's whose picture you see there. And he told Eric Garner that he was going to arrest him with no good reason, by the way. And at that point, they grabbed him, they took him down, and they put him in a chokehold. He clearly continued to say he could not breathe. He was murdered by the police. Think about how these mothers deal with these challenges. Think about that. And Sanette Nakia, I see that that's your last name. I wonder if you you bear some lineage to Thornton. Now, keep in mind that was his first name, but it's fascinating that those names are still there, right? Fascinating that those names are still there. In the middle, you see Ast, the great mother, as she is actually in mourning. You see her holding her arm? She's in mourning because of what occurred to her husband. We know that this is an ancient story and a modern story. We know that this is something that has occurred to Black mothers, and we must defend them. Take a look at what happened to Sister Jasmine Headley as she had gone to the an office for public assistance, and the line was extremely long. She sat on the floor with her son, feeling tired, and she was demanded that she could not sit on the floor, very disrespectfully. And she was absolutely tired. If you've ever seen those offices, the lines are long, the spaces are packed. She said that she would not stand up. She was not feeling well. And so they decided they would arrest her and drag her son from her arms. Look at the video of what occurred. That was in New York City. In New York City. That's what occurred. This all occurred because she was sitting on the ground with her son, a baby, an infant. And they said she could not sit on the ground. There were no chairs to sit there, by the way. Senra Campbell, you're correct. There were no chairs to sit. There was no place to sit. And you can see the kind of abusive tactics that they use. And yes, you are correct. It looked like most of the officers, if not all of the officers, were also Black women. But we know that very often, all too often, when those individuals put on those uniforms, they are more blue than they are Black. Did you see the one yanking the child out of her arms? How in the world could we think that whatever she did warranted that kind of behavior? Do you know how traumatized she is and traumatized her child who cannot speak yet is? And of course, after fighting and after these videos were released, they dropped the charges. Imagine if there was no video, what would have happened to her? So in some words, sometimes I say, why is it that people are filming things? Why don't they just get in there and use their hands to take care of them? I always say that, but we have to remember that the videos are important. That's what happened. And did you see that one Black woman, she looked to be a Black woman police officer, actually trying to scare everyone away with her taser? Did you see that? There were several women who tried to intervene. We cannot continue to see these sorts of things. We have to make sure that each and every one of those police officers involved actually have the most aggressive charges filed against them. Because until they are held accountable, until something different happens to them, these sorts of things will continue to occur. And for those of you who are not aware, I'm going to tell you, the police union in New York City, they defend any and everything that police officers do, even when they are this egregious. This mother was separated from her child and taken to jail. For what? Refusing to not sit on the floor. That's what her charge was. Actually, they ended up saying that she had physically accosted the police officers. Isn't it amazing that the video proves that that is not what she did? We can't continue to see these things. We must do something different. It's time for us to do something different. I want you to think about how important, how long-standing our connection to the principles of the divine feminine have been. These two are the oldest statues, the oldest images, the oldest renderings that still exist that we are aware of Kemetic female deities. You can see here I put the word goddesses for those of you who are not familiar with what we could call the Intertu. These are about 3500 BCE. They were in Kemet before Narmer comes forward. That's how old these are. The thing that's interesting is the one on the left is at the Brooklyn Museum. The one on the right is at the Metropolitan Museum. And I find it fascinating, absolutely fascinating, that this sort of imagery still exists. They are so old that we don't even know their names. We don't know their names. That's how old they are. And I think that we should recognize that for probably tens of thousands of years, the divine feminine was preeminent in African spirituality. But let's be clear, it's not just African spirituality. Look at these. These are in Europe. And look at how old they are. Unfortunately, they're called Venuses. That name really doesn't give it its proper impact. Venus is new. That term is new. It comes from the Greco-Roman period. It is new. But these images are clearly representing what most would believe are the divine feminine. The one on the left is known as the Venus of Willendorf from Australia. The one in the middle, the Venus of Dolny Vestansis in Moravia. And the one on the right, the Venus of Lausel in France. Notice that they're similar in many ways. They're larger women. They have large breasts. And I think that you should recognize that what the commentary is there's a commentary about fertility and pregnancy. I believe that that is what they're trying to depict in the form that these divine ladies have been given. One of the other things that I think is most notable here is that none of them have articulated faces. You might say, well, why don't they have articulated faces? I believe that they don't have these faces because the individuals who created them were celebrating the principle of the divine feminine, not a particular woman. I think that that is fascinating. In addition to that, by the way, here's a model of the Venus of Willendorf that sometimes I use when I go to lectures. Look at that. It's a model of the Venus. Look at that large derriere. You know who they're referring to. And look very closely at the head, at the hair. Look very closely at the hair. They are talking about African women. Do you see the cornrows? This is a reference to the divinity of Black motherhood. There was a time in the world that Black womanhood was most important. There was a time in the world that all recognized that it was African women who gave birth to the rest of all of humanity. Unfortunately, it seems very often that that time is long past, and that now Black women are actually prey for these white racist structures. We must fight back. We must defend Black women. We must. And there's several incredible books that you could read on this topic. I have a whole collection. There's a whole section of my library on this topic. You can see Sen Jason says, read the book When God Was a Woman by Merlin Stone. That's an excellent book. I would also suggest to you those books that are on the quote-unquote Black Madonna or Black Virgin. There's Ian Begg's The Cult of the Black Virgin. There is Olszewicz Perlaba, The Black Madonna of Latin America and Europe. There is Stephanie Gorgief's The Black Madonna. There's also, oh goodness, there's another book here. I actually interviewed her for our show, and I don't think that it was ever released, that interview. Another really good book on the topic that I cannot find right now. But I want you to know that we should be studying how these ancient people recognize the importance, recognize the power of the divine feminine. Oh, here it is. Here's the other book I was referring to. It is called Dark Mother, African Origins and Godmothers by Lucia Chiavola Birnbaum. That's the other book I think is pretty darn good. We should study these topics. We should study these topics because I think that it puts into context what our modern society has lost when we recognize where we once were. We have a lot of work to do. I want you to know that the earliest celebrations of motherhood in the world can be directed to ancient Kemet, as you can probably imagine. You should know that on the vernal equinox, vernal means what? Vernal means spring, right? On the vernal equinox for 4 days, the celebration at the vernal equinox and for 4 days, beginning in the end of October, there were these celebrations that celebrated Ast, the Divine Mother. She had become an archetype for mastering the divine energy within us all and for victory over suffering, because we know that she actually had to come against the challenges that were issued to her after the murder of her husband. So that we see that even though she's a sacred, divine, moral, ma'atical entity in the divine mythic story, she is actually injured by what happens to her husband, and she must continue to fight. For many practitioners for thousands of years, she spoke to people, because you must imagine, in some ways, we all know that even when we're doing those things that are right, sometimes bad stuff happens. And the question is, what do we do when calamity befalls us? In some ways, we look to the model of Ast as the model of how we must all behave. Clearly, these ideas were greatly taken into the Abrahamic tradition and into the Western world, as we see the Christian Mary play this role. And we should also recognize that what some would say is the most beautiful city in all of Europe, Paris, includes the name, hides the name, secrets the name of Great Mother Ast. At the time that Paris was first conceived, it had a large temple to Ast. And at that time, you should know, she was being called Isis. And the name for temple is Per. So there are those that argue that the name Paris is actually, it comes from Per Isis. This is important for us to recognize how important, how powerful these divine principles were. It is the European that has almost completely removed the divine feminine from existence. Clearly, we can see that Mary is a modern Tamhu, a modern European retelling in some ways of the archetype of the Divine Mother. And that is what we see. Clearly, there are some old churches that recognize this irony, let's call it. They actually are those that have what most people call the Black Madonnas. So I want us to recognize that these great ladies have gone into the manner in which Christians look at Mary, and that there seems to be an echo of this great African woman even in the descriptions of Mary's. Take a look at Ast here in mourning. You can see her in Paris. We can see her holding her hair, holding her head in sorrow. And on the one on the right, both of these, I believe, are in the yes, both of them are in the Louvre in Paris. I've seen them both. You can see her with her hands in front of her face. Sometimes people think she's praying, but what she's actually doing is she is in mourning because of what has occurred. Here is, for those of you who did not know, here is actually the coat of arms of Paris. And you can see that Ast, carrying an Ankh, is on the prow of the ship. You can see that she is following a star that they believe brought her to Paris. So for those of us who argue, or those, not of us, but those who argue that Paris is not named for per Isis, it's peculiar that it seems those individuals who created the crest of Paris might say otherwise. I want us to think about the divine feminine for a minute and how to work with the divine feminine. Take a look at Asar here, actually receiving the assistance, receiving power and energy from the Mary, the two beloved ladies, Ast with the throne on her head, and Inbethet with the image of the house and the symbol for lady on top of her head. Lady being the counterpart of Lord. This is of importance as well. Let me say Anken Ma'at to Baba Heru, who I see has entered the room. We're not talking about child molesters anymore. And I just want to say that we need to do, obviously, the first thing we need to do is protect Black women. That's really what we're talking about here. And those people who have been proven to take advantage of children should have the most serious, the most egregious of sentences. And honestly, I think that we need to recognize that if we're just talking about polite, then we're missing the point, right? That there are predators in our community and they should all be dealt with. I don't think there is a woman in the community that can tell you that she's not familiar at some point in her development with some man who was looking at her or even did something inappropriate to her. There are a lot of people who are looking to prey upon young Black women or Black girls, and we need to defend them. We need to ensure that this is not something that continues. I love this image. Clearly, we can see that this relates to the resurrection of Asar. This image is supposed to have occurred in what is called the Hall of the Appearings in the temple space, a particular temple space that was used for ceremony to recognize that moment when the two Marys witnessed the resurrection of Asar, witnessed his returning. You can see this here. These golden ladies, can you see that they're sitting on these bowls? This is the Nub bowl, which means that they are golden ladies, and they are giving homage to the soul, the everlasting soul. Can you see the Jed column here? It actually has eyes on it if you look closely. Let's see if I can get it a little closer. Can you see it has eyes on it? This is the personification of the resurrection of Asar. It is the backbone of Asar. And with the backbone being upright, this is an allegory for the resurrection of Asar. And then we see that symbol of the resurrection of Asar is connected to divine everlasting life. But it's not just divine everlasting life. Look at the arms coming from this Ankh. We are seeing that at the rising sun, I believe this must be at the winter solstice, we see that the soul, these arms are meant to be the Ka, the soul of Asar lives and goes to where? Do you see this symbol here? Into heaven. That is what we're seeing. And it occurs in a rocky place. Do you notice that these baboons that are paying homage to the sun are standing on a rocky precipice? And we can see that the two ladies are standing actually between two hilly mountains. I believe this is also a symbol for the Aket, the horizon. So this once again tells us that we're looking at dawn. I want you to reread the section of the biblical narrative where the two Marys recognize the resurrection of Jesus. And as you do this, you're going to recognize that that is an echo of an earlier tradition. That is the echo of an earlier tradition. And as long as we don't recognize what occurred, then what happens is we allow those individuals in these youngest of traditions to maintain that that is a historic story, and to also maintain that it is a major event in the Christian tradition, when we should know that it is nothing more than a retelling, I would argue a poor retelling, than a retelling of the resurrection of Asar. That is important. I want you, it's certainly in the book of Matthew, and I want you to look at it again, right? I believe it begins in Matthew 28, and it goes from 1 to like 10 or something like that. When you hear that there's this earthquake and then angel of God descends from heaven and rolls back a stone, and there is an appearance like lightning. Look at the like lightning, because in the Kemetic tradition, when we hear of the spirit of Asar, sometimes he is described as occurring like lightning. I want you to know that this is an echo, that these narratives were with African people for tens of thousands of years, and certainly written most recently in the Kemetic narrative. Here we see the temple of Heru, the temple consecrated to Heru at Edfu, at what is called Edfu today. And here we also see descriptions of the birth of Heru. Sometimes we don't talk enough about the second lady in that tradition, the lady known as Nebet-Het. So many more people are familiar with the Greek rendition of her name, Nephthys. But you should know she's a member of the Pasejet, that name that is sometimes called the Aenead in Greek. And she's also in Iunu. These are two important cities. Heliopolis is one of them. Heliopolis is known as Iunu, but she is often described there. Her name actually is often translated as the lady of the house. Nebet means lady. Neb means like Lord. Nebet would be lady. Het is house. So she is the lady of the house. She is a sister of wife, and she is the wife of Setesh. And we should recognize that in the great narrative, she leaves her husband, who has now usurped the throne of Asar, to go on this great journey with her sister to reclaim Asar. This is important. Sometimes she's also depicted as the protector of Asar, as you saw. She is the aunt of Heru, and sometimes she is called the nursing mother of Heru, because he climbs to her knees in the Merkut text, that are sometimes called the pyramid text. She's often sometimes also called the mother of Anpu, but Anpu is also depicted as the son of Bast or As sometimes as well. She is the mother of fiery reckoning. In the Merkut text, it says she incinerates the enemies of the Nesut bit of the king, of the pharaoh. She incinerates his enemies. She is a mother of fiery reckoning. She will defend the child. That's the story here. She's the protector of Hapi. You know Hapi is the baboon, right? What does the baboon protect, by the way? What organ does the baboon protect? She is a protector of Hapi in the Mesu Heru, sometimes known as the canopic jars. We call those the Mesu Heru. That is their original name. And she's also connected to the Bennu bird. Sinet Cortia is correct. Hapi protects the lungs. Hapi protects and holds the lungs. She is often also known as several other titles. They call her Nebethet of the bed of life because she sits at the head actually of Asar as he is resurrecting. And she's also known as the Queen of Embalmers. Connected to her are ceremonies where bear is included. By the way, there's a passage that says that she removes the king's hangover. Listen to that. I think that's beautiful. Yes, I see Sinet Daria. Greetings, Sinet Daria, one of our full members. She's also saying the lungs, correct. Sinet Cheryl, yes, we're talking about the lungs. Hapi is the protector of the lungs. So she removes the king's hangover. She is the queen of darkness that allows one to see. And sometimes she's represented by a bird known as the kite or by the falcon. She is the mistress of Hekau, or words of power and fertility. And together with her sister, she is known as one of the Meri, or the beloved ones. We should also speak to Enbethet, this lady of fiery reckoning. Take a look at her here. This is a close-up on that same image of her. And you can see that her headdress is her title. The Neb is the bowl. The Et, Nebet, is this little, there's a T symbol, it looks like in a half a circle. And then this rectangular piece that has a small square in the left-hand corner is Het. So she's Nebet Het. Her headdress is actually her title. This is powerful. Sinet Cortia says, wasn't she also married to Heru's uncle? Yes, that's why when I said she's the wife of Setesh, Setesh is also known as Set, but it's believed that Setesh may be his earliest name. So she is usually depicted as the wife of Setesh. Here's another image from the Greco-Roman period of her with her prominent headdress. And here's the kite. By the way, the kite is a scary looking bird. Look at those red eyes. That's the kite. That's the kite bird. So sometimes even today when the kites fly ahead, even the modern Egyptians say that the ladies are with them. Even the modern Egyptians say that. The kite bird, which I have seen in Kemet myself, by the way. And once again, here are depictions of Nebethet. And here you can see she's also in sorrow. Do you see the hand in front of her face? She's also in sorrow here for the killing of Asar. There are many utterances of her. There's utterance 216 in the coffin text that say, I have come to you, Nebethet. I have come to the evening barge. I have come to you. True is she over the red. She over the red. Listen to that one. I don't even know what that means. We have to do more research. I have come to you. She who remembers the cause. Remember him, Unas. So can you see here that she remembers the souls of all? She is known as she who remembers the souls, the cause. Powerful. Utterance 219 says, Nebethet, this your brother is here, Asar, whom you have preserved alive. See, she's preserved him. This is why she's known as the Queen of Embalmers. He lives, he lives. This Unas lives. He is not dead. This Unas is not dead. He is not gone down. This Unas has not gone down. He has not been judged. This Unas has not been judged. He judges. This Unas judges. You can see that she is connected to Asar here and the transition in judgment. Utterance 222 says, he comes down to meet his adversary and stands up, the greatest chief in his kingdom. Nebethet praised him after he had captured his opponents. And then it continues. You go up, you go down. You go up with Inbet, darkened with the evening barge. You go up, you go down. You go up with Ast. You rise with the morning barge. I want you to know that we must remember that in the Kemetic tradition, we recognize the power, the primacy of the divine feminine. How could those of us who are connected to the concept of the divine feminine not be protectors of Black women? Today, I ask you to get in your altars, family. Get in your altars, and I want you to ask that the daughter of Sister Linda is given the strength that she needs in order to navigate this difficult time. And that Sister Linda, the mother of this child herself, be given solace, be given strength so that she can assist her daughter to return to herself after such a difficult period has occurred. I want you to get in your altars, your work altars, to do that work. Perhaps you'll actually light a candle or do an offering to Nebuchadnezzar, because Nebuchadnezzar is the incinerator of the king's enemies. I hate to say this, but our dear brother has been dealt with as one of the enemies. It's sad that that has happened to someone that I know, but he certainly did what he needed. He certainly did, I believe, the thing that he is accused of, and he is paying a great penalty for it. 7 years is a lot of time, family. I don't believe he'll be there for all 7 years, but know that that is a major penalty, and that we should ensure that anyone who seeks to harm a child experiences a very challenging penalty. Please remember, Black women are worthy of protection. Black women are worthy of praise. We must all do it. With that, the divine force in me meets the divine force in you. Twa'u for being part of this discussion. I hope that it was interesting. I hope that you truly got some benefit from it. And I also want to say to you that I'm truly hoping that we all are healing after this very challenging week. It was rough. I was not able, as I said, to listen to the entire statement from the mother in one sitting. I had to literally pause it. I got some water and I came back and I listened to the rest. Because while I was getting the water, I said, how dare you pause this? As difficult as it was for her, you need to now listen to it and struggle through it. It was painful. It was painful. I'm hoping that we'll do the right thing in this difficult situation. Let me say to you that as Anika is not feeling well, let me give you a final affirmation. Let me read to you, let me speak to you some of the words of the divine in this tradition. I'm going to give you the same passage that comes from the Hesse that we did. Rupu nuku amiku kemam keperu and enter hayu. I am that I am, a shining being of light, dwelling in the light of the Most High. I want to say to you that I'm hoping that even in this difficult week, you are going to come away strengthened, that you are going to come away recommitted to do the work that our ancestors expect us to do. And with that, let me say dua once more. Thank you for your donations if you sent them. If you haven't, please, we definitely need them to be able to continue to do the work. And I am pleased once again to bring you Kemetic Ascension, brought to you by the Shrine of Ma'at. Shemen Ma'at, go forth in divine balance. We'll see you soon. Oh, and folks, don't forget that next Saturday is our celebration for our initiates. We really hope that you'll be there. 12 noon at Central Park in front of the Dana Discovery Center at around 110th and Lenox Avenue. Please make sure you're there. We'll see you soon. Peace.